Ladies and gentlemen, the long awaited, highly anticipated conversation with a guy's guy who's called Mike Smallwood, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I like the introduction anyway.
Well, boom, boom.
There you go.
So, as you know, that I know that you know, when you play a little soccer, you get a sense of humor about yourself. And you have had it all the way through. Uh, you were a grade schooler down there at St. Philip Neri, and
Right.
I was in the neighboring parish, and we became friends and stuff. And well, not friends, but we knew each other. And
Sure.
were you around the time of Denny Cody?
I think Denny was a year older than me,
Okay.
and but I played with him. Every year back then there were, two grades together would play at each level, which I thought was really good because when you're first year doing that, you're playing up. You're playing with really good guys that are older than you, and it makes a difference when you're that age, a year. And then the next year you got to
Hey,
be a big shot. So it worked out really well.
yeah. Hey, are you okay? Do you need brake work or something? I'm hearing noises.
No, I'm just driving. You're just
Oh,
maybe
you
the
got your
rain.
windshield wipers on.
Well, I can turn them down so it's not raining hard anymore. Maybe that helps.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we, this is a world premiere for Whale Certified. I'm in a safe location in Balloon Boom Studios in downtown Holly Hills, and you're out on the road going to be giving some people some great legal advice and so forth.
Well, I just left OB Clark's for the boys' lunch that we have every week, and so now we know everything to do in the world, and we were trying to pick out which one of us should be Pope. So I just want to be the treasurer. I don't need to be the Pope.
No, no, that's very wise of you. So
Yeah.
it came to where you leave the confines of St. Philip Neri and the schoolyard and to wear the green, but your family had other plans and they took you down on the south side.
Yeah, a lot of people from Philip Neri moved in the same era that I did. Some moved out. A lot of them went to Florissant, out north, and then a lot of them went to south, like St. Louis Hills, and um, we were in Shrewsbury. We moved to Shrewsbury because we couldn't afford St. Louis Hills, and but no, and it ended up being a good thing for me. My dad had talked me out of going to. Well, he didn't talk me out of it. He said I wasn't going to go to McBride because that's where I wanted to go, and because I had friends there. I didn't. The only guys at St. Louis U High that I knew were Joe Ham and Tom Kniff. So, so I didn't know anybody there, and I didn't know anybody in my class. So it was a tough first year, but everything worked out really well, and I would recommend St. Louis U High to anybody.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And you represented the junior Bills very well, being all state and so forth and so forth. At at around that time, your name is mentioned along with Joey Ham.
Well, I probably don't belong in the same sentence with Joey, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, you so
Back
yeah,
back then, Joe Ham, Mike Siri, and Al Trost were the Mount Rushmore of that whole crowd. There were
yeah,
other great players, but those three were just on a whole different level
right,
than everybody else. But they were all good guys. I mean, real good guys,
yeah, man.
and would work with younger players when we played in schoolyard, and they'd work with you. They wouldn't just play with you. They'd say, well, you need to start doing this or that. I always took everything they said as gospel, and I think that helped.
Yes, yes, and you took that coachability down there to Seco, and I mean, my gosh, man, the name droppers that you have played, up north and south. I mean, you get the best 11 out of that. That's a World Cup team right there.
They were T.D. Vasquez was the coach, and technically he was by far the best coach I ever had. I mean, Pat McBride was probably right there with him, but he was TD was very special, and it was kind of old school where if you missed a practice, you missed a game, and no exceptions. And so it was a tight knit group, and we did what we needed to do, and we practiced every day, 5 days a week during the week. So you'd leave school and go straight there, and it was just it was very serious because I don't think we had the talent that some teams we played against did, around the country. But I don't think any of them were the team we were.
Right.
We were very close, and we had great players. We had Strumlow and Rossline and Lenny Deschler and Tom Palazzaro. I mean, we had countless guys that were great players.
Hey, don't forget Conway. Don't forget Conway.
I was just throwing him back in because Tim and I were really close because he was at St. Louis High with me.
Yeah.
And we played next to each other for 4 years there, and plus playing on Seco. So, and one thing I was very fortunate growing up in Philip Neri and all that were how many great coaches I was able to play for. I mean, we started with Art Bowles, whose two sons played at Michigan State, and then we had Francis Flynn, whose sons Annie, Neil, and Tim, and Mark. I mean, they were all. Francis was a great player in doing things like short-sighted games, at practice, and only left foot one day and only right foot the next day.
Wow.
And I hear these coaches now talk about it like they invented it. They were doing it 60 years ago. And then, I leave there and I end up with, Vasquez, and in high school, Evie Dunn, and in college, Pat McBride and Bob Gelker. So, I would have been hard-pressed not to have picked up something from all those guys.
Yes, right. Did you ever practice barefooted?
Never did that. I've never had tough feet like that. So, no, I have trouble walking on the beach without shoes on.
Nice. And under full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, we can't forget to mention the other Flynns, Dan Flynn, and then Mary Frances.
Mary Frances, she was just a good person, really good person. And the mom, Estelle, would make us lunch when we'd be out there in the summer just goofing around. She'd make us lunch. And again, the entire family to this day are about as kind and good-hearted and just wonderful people. It's really almost mind-boggling how good they've all been through their lives.
Yeah.
And Danny, of course, accomplishing being the head of U.S. Soccer. Really, I mean, he was the highest-paid employee when he was there, and then after being at Anheuser-Busch with Denny Long. So, it's had quite a career, and Neil moved to Springfield. He's a lobbyist lawyer there, so they've all done incredibly well.
Yeah. And Mark, we're Facebook friends, and he was he started the soccer program with the McClure Comets.
I did not know that. I didn't know that.
Well, that's what he's leading me to believe. I mean, an Irishman wouldn't lead you astray.
If Mark said he did it, believe me, that's what he did.
Yeah, man.
I had taste in my mouth with McClure, though, because we lost to them in the state tournament when I was a senior in high school, and that was the worst loss I've ever been involved with.
Wow. Well, you sat from one end to the other to that guy Bruce Woodruff over there that was with
Yeah.
Comet.
Well,
Yeah.
Bruce is the one who beat us in the. I guess it was the semifinal. I guess it was, and it was Bruce who scored the goal that beat us. And then I played him against him when he was at St. Louis U, and he played against us when we lost the 181-minute game.
Wow.
In the tournament. We played him over at SIU and lost. Well, at the 181st minute, can't tell you how tired I was.
Uh,
Just, but
and that's unable to be matched or
right,
or
because
broken.
they have overtime. They have shorter overtimes, and I'm glad I never played in a game that was ever decided with penalty kicks. That came after me, so I'm
Wow.
glad because I think that's a terrible way to end an important game. During the regular season, I get it, but in the World Cup final, how can you have the World Cup final be decided on penalty kicks? That doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
But they haven't asked me my opinion, and I'm
Well,
sure they don't want it.
they probably can't afford you.
So, for an opinion in soccer, they can afford me.
All right then. So here you go. You go there, and then you're in because you have everything: grade school, high school, and you're in that college, man. You're in the NCAAs, man. You know, and this and that. So in your senior year, did you get a sniff to go pro, or did you read the tea
Well,
leaves and?
you know what? That's what my plan was. In fact, I told my girlfriend at the time that I would take her with me wherever I got drafted, and she was excited about that. And then I got hurt and tore my ACL, and that was the end of all that. So that's when I'm laying in the hospital bed trying to figure out what do I do now. I mean, I didn't have a plan B.
Yeah,
So
and
and but
and that was the time of ACLs. Was hey, that's doom nowadays.
unless back then it was but Greg McCoskey came back from it, but his doctor had done a immediate transplant on the ACL. Using muscle tissue and that.
Wow.
My guy wasn't that advanced, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sophisticated enough to know that there was a better way to do this. All
Uh,
he did was take out my cartilage,
yeah. Yeah.
which didn't do me any good, but I knew I was done, so I was realistic about it and trying to decide what to do, and ended up in law school. So
Wow. Well, I tell you, there's nobody can talk about the Cougars without putting your name with the wing fullback Mike Smallwood, ladies and gentlemen.
well, I appreciate that, but we had such great players all over the field.
Oh, didn't you?
Uh,
Man.
and from the very beginning with, Kevin Howe and Vince Fossey were really the solid parts when I first got there, and
Yeah.
then Tommy Twellman and Tom Galati. I mean, there's one guy after another,
Yeah.
and Kelker was able to recruit really well we had all St. Louis kids, just like St. Louis U did, and in my year that I got recruited, there was a class that had John Strumlow and Steve Cacciatore in it, and who are two of my absolute favorite teammates, players that I ever knew,
Yeah.
and I'm still friends with them, and they're both incredibly good guys. And without those guys, I don't think we would have ever won anything. So
Well said. Well said.
they were great players.
Yeah.
Steve, I think, can still play. So I think I'm out of that loop.
All right then. By full disclosure, we both are. I mean, my man, I always take a GoFundMe page with me going up to the top 90 to knock a ball out. So,
I understand.
yeah. So, I gotta ask you, man, did you ever dress up in the little White House and walk across the road to go onto the field?
From the field house there
Yeah.
at SIU, no, we had a good locker room and all that, and
No, no, I was
you know,
talking at SIU, that little memory. I guess it was before your time. There used to have a little white house that was behind the gold by the parking lot. And,
no, I never saw that. It wasn't there when I was there.
okay, okay, got it. But I
But
mean,
because I think the clubhouse had just been built right then, and
yeah, yeah,
that's when Gelker was so protective of the field.
yeah,
The only time we ever practiced on that field was right before we played St. Louis U. Other than
nice.
that, we never played on that field other than regular games.
Well, it was.
But our practice fields were better than 90% of the fields in the country.
Oh,
They were just all good
absolutely,
fields.
absolutely. But it was quite a sight to see the Cougars come out of the locker room and make that walk. That walk must have seemed like a mile, huh?
It was. I always enjoyed it because the fans were always there, and especially when we'd be playing somebody that was, had a reputation. The stands would be full, and it was always fun to play there, and we had a lot of success there. I remember losing one game there. That's the only one. Maybe we may have lost more than that, but I don't remember it.
Wow.
To tell you how strong Bob Gelker was in the nation, in 4 years, and we were in the NCAA tournament every year, never played anywhere other than our field and SIU and Busch Stadium. Those are the only two fields we played on for 4 years of college during the tournament. So Gelker was able to get all the home games because it was based on your where you ranked. So it was St. Louis U and us were always ranked very close
Oh
and
yeah.
always at the top. So it was the St. Louis U had incredible teams,
Oh,
and
unbelievable.
those are the games you love to play in. I mean, it tests you,
Yeah.
and plus it's bragging rights that continue to this day. So,
Right. And so you left yourself in good standing where if other teams, players seen you, they would saw you, they would walk across the room and say hi to you.
we became friends afterwards, but I'll tell you what, there was no friendship out there, you know, before that. I watch these guys now. They play a big game and they shake hands and all that. None of that happened back then, and it never. It just didn't happen. And because you were built up to hate the other team. Hate's a bad word to use, but you really were motivated to succeed against them. And it was tough whenever you lost one of those games. I mean, it was just crushing. And the one real long game I mentioned, the 181 minutes. I almost quit playing after that because I figured we can't play much better, and we didn't win, so why play anymore?
Wow.
And I got over it after about a month, but to this day, I haven't gotten over that loss. I won't get over that. So,
Yeah.
and it's
Wow.
funny, you remember the losses more than you remember the wins.
Isn't that something?
And I wish it were different, but it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, the situation with taking what you learned with the fellas and everybody, the teamwork makes the dream work. Your law practice, how you see in the court system, do you see something similar?
Uh, you know, there is this sort of camaraderie, at least in the past. There was everybody kind of knew everybody, and it's St. Louis to begin with. But what I've seen develop, and back then, especially when you're a young lawyer, your firm sends you over to these motion dockets and all that, and you end up sitting in a courtroom listening to other guys argue stuff for 2 or 3 hours. But while you're there, you start talking to the other guys that are there, most of them younger, and you're talking about where you went to school and who do you know and all that. We go through that. We became at least acquaintances, and most of the time friendly acquaintances. And but nowadays, I went in there not that long ago, and there was a motion docket. I counted there were 26 lawyers in that room. 25 of them were on their phones. They weren't talking to one another. That's where
Yes.
I made the best friends I made in the law business outside my own group were guys that I met at those motion dockets. And then that just kind of, you know, fell apart when everybody's on their phone. I'm sure it's really important, but we were able to do it without it. So it's just a different profession now than it used to be. And not saying it's better or worse, it's just different.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but I've enjoyed it now. It's 46 years, so I've enjoyed doing it, and I wouldn't do anything different.
Right. And
I always had good partners and good guys I worked with, and
yeah.
I don't have a problem with anybody with them. I mean, everybody's ended up friends, even if we changed firms. So
Beautiful. And so that adversarial lawyer stuff back in the day, with you being a player, that does that come out to where you're able to shake hands afterwards, but right then and there I want to whip you.
I got a good lesson. I had only been a lawyer a couple months, and I went. My first firm was Rooney, Webby, Davidson, and Schleter,
All right.
and I did most of my stuff with Schleter. And I was on the phone, and he walked by the office, and I yelled at some other lawyer on the phone. And he called me in the office, and he said, "Listen," he goes, "I can sense you're pretty volatile sometimes." He goes, "You're going to do business with these guys for the next 50 years. You can't make any enemies. You can't do that unless they lie to you or they cheat you." He goes, "In which case you can do whatever you want. But if they're just playing hardball and all that and not being front, that's just part of the business. So be honest with everybody, do the best you can, and don't take it personally, because most of the time it's not." So it was a good lesson. I respect Jack Schleter a lot, and he was right. And I'm glad I never burned bridges. I didn't offend. Offend's not the right word. I didn't act inappropriately with any other lawyers, at least that I remember. And maybe they have a different opinion, but I just did the best I could on each case and take care of your client and do the best you can. That's all anyone can ask.
Well, Michael Smallwood, that got you whale certified. Way to go,
There you
brother.
go.
Yeah, that's the life.
Good.
Yeah, you gave a life
Do I get a
lesson.
plaque? Do I get a plaque or something?
I tell you one thing, and you're in a crowded room, there's only going to be you and a couple others that are whale certified. So you're going to be in a special deal there.
Well, I look forward to the reunion. 'Cause that's all I do now is go to reunions. I go to a lot of reunions.
All right.
So,
Well,
and
I hope
that's fun.
our mutual friend could hear this and Phil Holtop, and hopefully he's going to get well on us.
And actually, and I pray for him every night. He's one of my favorite people in the world, really.
Yeah.
And I worry about him, and and fortunately, his brother has kept everybody informed,
Yeah.
because I know it's hard during
Oh,
that period of time.
man, yeah.
And Phil's had a tough road too, so
Right.
I understand that, and I just hope he recovers and we can go hang out again.
That's right. That's another beautiful family that, when you know one, you know them all,
Well, I made a mistake one time. Phil was in my grade in grade school, and he was a boxer.
Yeah.
And so I've got kind of my ring set up at the garage. You want to come over and box with me? Boy, did I learn a
Sucker.
lesson? No, this was boxing. He wanted to box with me.
Yeah, soccer.
And
Sucker.
yeah, oh my God, what an idiot I was. And the only time I was that stupid after that is over at SIU, I wrestled Larry Kristoff, who was I think he was a silver medalist in the Olympics, heavyweight. And he asked me, how long do you think you could go? We'd sit down in the sports headquarters rooms and all that. And he was always there. And you go, how long do you think you could last with me in a ring? And I go, I don't know, 30 seconds. And he goes, well, why don't you come to practice this night? I go, okay. So I go there, and all the wrestlers are there, and I know some of my, Greg Tuck grew up in Dayton, right by St. Philip Neri, and I knew several of the guys. And so, I get down the first time we go, and I kind of just approach him, and he just picks me up, slams me down hard, and I mean, it took 6 seconds maybe. And he goes, well, you want to try again? And I go, okay, no, I can do this. So the second time, I decide I'm going to kind of just avoid him. I'm going to run away.
Okay.
Type thing. So, but I'm still down in the crowd, and I do that. He gets a hold of my arm, pulls me in. Next thing you know, same thing. But this time it took him about 10 seconds.
Uh-huh.
And slammed me hard. And he goes, you want to try again? And I go, yeah, now I figure I'm going to try the only wrestling move I know, which is to shoot one of their legs, go at a leg and pull it in. So I try that, and he knees me right in the face. and he goes, I'm not even going to let you try again. He goes, of all the soccer players, I've done this to a bunch of soccer players over the years. He goes, you're the only one dumb enough to do it 3 times. So,
Cool Hand Smallwood.
Boy, did I get my ass kicked.
Yeah, you're like a cool hand, man.
But all the wrestlers were, kind of proud of me that I did it.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
I was friendly with them before, and I was friends with them after.
Right on. Right on.
Okay. At least I joined the fight. I might not win it, but I would join it.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, and that means a lot. So the story goes is that we come to the point at Wales Certified to say, hey, Mike, whatever you want to say to who you ever want to say it to for as long as you want to say it for, this is your chance.
Well, because we've talked a lot about it, is the appreciation for all my teammates, of course. I mean, I really never had much problem with anybody during that whole time. But the one thing, and again, these kids nowadays don't get this, where coaches coached because they loved the game, they loved the kids. And I mean, it wasn't until really college till any of our coaches got paid. I mean, I think Ebby Dunn got $1,500 a year for coaching the soccer team. And I just appreciate the upbringing I had to have a Francis Flynn in my pedigree. And I left out that 2 coaches when you were in 7th and 8th grade, you play on 2 teams. Well, one team was coached by Al Trost, the other one by Don Cerisi. And I mean, everybody I just mentioned is a Hall of Fame coach. And most of them donated their time to do it. And it was just very special. And as life's going on, I've appreciated all that they said and did. And I can't say enough good things about any of them. They were all great coaches and great guys.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, they're all proud of you guys too. They're all proud of us. It didn't go unnoticed. So, all right, you big lug.
All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about those guys. I enjoy it, and I love talking about them in particular. So,
amen. So the best to you, Pope.
All right.
Should I call you Pope Michael. You got another name? You got to practice what name you're
Well,
going to take?
well,
Oh, you're going to
you
be
know,
the treasurer. Forget about it.
yeah, yeah. Just call me Cardinal.
Okay, then. All right.
All righty. Well,
Cheerio, man.
all right. You too. Take care, and thanks for the opportunity.
Right on. Bye-bye.